It's 450 jobs. I know I qualify for one. We always believe the best player, it happens if you're the best player. But that's not the case, because I'm living proof that you can be the best player and the NBA can still overlook you. That can happen. I'm living proof. I got my Naismith trophy right here too while you talking. Let me just show you, just so I can have it.
Okay.
People be questioning, saying I never won a Naismith Award. I wasn't supposed to be successful at basketball. If you cover up my name and put Steph Curry name, everybody would believe it. I didn't understand it, because I was the best player pound for pound in the country.
Countless times you've heard a player say they should have made it to the league, but they were good enough for the league, and it numbs you after a while knowing that them not making it there probably has good reason. But not today's feature. Rashad Phillips did everything and more to make the NBA, yet those doors never opened for the former Naismith Hall of Fame Award winner. Yes, Rashad did win a Naismith Award for the best player under 6 foot in 2001. As he says, if you remove the face and put any other NBA guard next to his college stats, there'd be no question that player was destined to play in the league. But Rashad, doing more than enough, was swept under the rug for a guy truly deserving to have seen the bright lights of the NBA. Made it or not, you won't meet a better ambassador of the game, a more passionate, humble, intelligent former superstar than Rashad Phillips. A favorite of mine, and an honor to be the one to pass these gems to you from the man himself. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Rashad Phillips, Detroit kid, Detroit raised, Detroit star, Naismith Award winner, all while usually being one of the smaller players on the court. Countless times that you've been the best player amongst your peers, MVP, leader in this, record breaker in that, should really be highlighted in basketball conversations today. So, Stunted Growth, we're talking to the definition of a basketball professional. Rashad, can't say enough about you as a player and all the accomplishments that you've earned in that space and more. Excited to talk to you today, sir. Welcome. Appreciate having you.
Thank you so much. It really means a lot to be appreciated for a person like myself who has poured so much into the game of basketball, not only on the court, but off the court. So to be recognized in this day and age for what my contributions have been to the game as a player, it means a lot to me. Thank you.
Today, I want to start it off like this, right? I want to say a few words, and I want your instant thoughts on those words, but from the perspective that I give you. When I say the word Detroit, from a basketball player's perspective, what are your thoughts?
Tough, perseverance, survival, dedication, skill, driven, flat out dogs.
What about the word success from the perspective of the young kid that you were with all his dreams in front of him?
Yeah, I think I wasn't supposed to be successful at basketball. Tell people this all the time. From where I come from, not from my upbringing, but because there's two sides of my story. Where I come from and my upbringing were two different things. Where I come from in society, there's not a lot of outlet to become successful. There's a lot of things that pull at you from where I come from. Whether it's through the streets, through drugs, or just peer pressure, getting pulled in every different direction. And you go into the inner cities of any inner city, not just Detroit, but there's a liquor store on every corner. There's so many distractions. There's so many things around you that will tell you indirectly that you don't supposed to be successful. But when I talk about my upbringing, with coming from two strong, willing young parents that was willing to do everything in their power to make sure that they gave me the right resources to become successful. And that's how I was able to really make it out and see the light at the end of the tunnel, because my parents provided me the proper platform for me to be successful. So it was where I came from versus my upbringing, and my parents were stronger and allowed me to have the platform to become a success.
Wow. that guidance, man. I think people underrate that word, especially when it comes to the journey of a basketball player. So for you to have both your parents, and as you can see, like from the videos and the highlights, like your parents were always there in your corner. That's very admirable that you had that. Okay, lastly, the word basketball, from the perspective of the man that you are today, how do you view the sport and what it's done for you now?
I feel like for me, basketball has been a metaphor for life for me. All the things that I've obtained from playing the game of basketball is what has helped me become the person I am today. There's things that you must have. There's things that you must have to be a great basketball player, like discipline, accountability, skill, problem solving, things of that nature. You need those type of things also in life. You have to be able to problem solve in life. You have to be accountable in life. You have to have some discipline in life. So I feel like all those things that align with basketball also aligns with life. I was able to simplify it like that for me personally. And that's why I've been able to have such a lucrative life after playing the game of basketball, because I've been able to apply what I learned as an athlete and apply it as a man in today's society.
Man, powerful message. Now, I say that because when I think of Rashad Phillips, those three words I think can describe you the most from my perspective. So let's get into a little bit of your journey from the beginning, where it all began, back to Detroit.
Yep.
What age did you start to play basketball? And what was the basketball environment around you in Detroit? And who pushed you to excel in the game?
That's a great question. It started with my uncle, my dad's older brother, Edward Phillips. He was a huge sports person. He was 6'4", but unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to play sports because he went to the Vietnam really early. He kind of had to give up his career sports-wise, but he had a little brother, which was my father, Virgil Phillips. He kind of instilled that sports mentality into my father. And then when I was born, my dad named me Rashad, which is after Ahmad Rashad, the NFL wide receiver. So I was almost born into sports. By the time I was 4 or 5 years old, my father had started a local community center called Reach Youth Programs in 1979. So I was 1 year old. I started playing basketball around 4 or 5. My father was the driving force behind everything that I did as far as sports. And my mother did a great job of supporting my father as he built up this athlete. So I was sort of a kind of a child phenom. By the time I was 9 years old, I was averaging 40 points a game at 9 years old. And I was the smallest person, but it was something that I was literally born into the game of basketball. I was born into it. It's like when a kid is born into a family of lawyers and they become a lawyer, or they're born into a family of doctors and they become a doctor. I was born into a sports family, so it was inevitable for that to happen, and it happened really early.
Okay, so your varsity years, let's skip a little bit ahead. Your varsity years, 4-year starter, first ever in school history. What was that experience like?
Now that I look back on it, that was almost an impossible feat, because I started high school at like 4'8". I was small. I wasn't even 5 feet. Like my daughter now at 13 years old, my youngest daughter now is 5'4". At her age, she's way bigger than I was at her age. So I'm 13 years old, 14 years old, not even 5 feet, and I'm starting on varsity. But again, when we started this conversation, you asked me, what did Detroit mean? And the first thing I said, being tough, being dedicated, being skilled, like all of those attributes I had at 13 years old. I had the wherewithal to get over the hump. I had the skills, I had the toughness, and that was something that was just very impressive now that I'm older and looking back at it saying, wow, like that was super impressive to start on a varsity basketball team at 4'9", 13 years old. That doesn't happen every day.
Now, would you say that was just a natural, you said the wherewithal that you had, was that natural or was that instilled in you? Do you think that could be
not taught, but transferred or given?
Yeah, again, it goes back to my upbringing. I felt like the upbringing that I had mixed with the society that I grew up in. It kind of came up with the right potion. The neighborhood I grew up in, my upbringing, being thrusted into the basketball world and the football world, and then you stir it all up and you can't help but to be tough.
Right.
There's no other choice with all that mixing in, your neighborhood, your upbringing, playing basketball, playing football, your dad pushing you, your mom pushing you, your uncles pushing you, playing against older kids, getting knocked down, getting back up. You just stir that all up and you come up with this tough 13-year-old that has wherewithal.
So, I've heard that a lot from players that were elite. They all have that in common, where either they had someone that was guiding them with that, or they had it naturally. Do you think you need that to get to the top level?
I don't think you need it to get to the top level, but I think it definitely helps to get to the top level. I feel like the smaller you are, the more wherewithal you must have, because you deal with more, because in the game of basketball, the smaller you are, the more perfect you have to be.
Right.
The taller you are, the more mistakes you can make. So I feel like for me personally, I had no choice but to be tough. I had no choice but to be smart. I had no choice but to be skilled, because if I lack any of those things, then I'll lose out to the person that's 6'4", 6'5", even if they didn't have that.
Wow. In high school, right? Okay, you were the man, you were a prodigy. Did you have any player you were going against that you saw those same traits in, and it was a tough matchup every time?
I don't think anybody had my traits, to be honest with you. That's what made me kind of a one-of-one player during my time. But there were a lot of great players in my era. One player in particular that stood out to me was my childhood friend who actually played on the same PAL League team with me. His name was Greg Graves. Greg Graves led the state of Michigan in scoring in high school his senior year, like 33 a game. And he wasn't much bigger than me. He was like 5'11", went on to play at Penn State, and then he ended up transferring to University of Detroit and playing college ball with me. So he was my high school rival. We were great friends. We competed in high school, and he also played with a guy named Mike Chappelle, who ended up going to Duke. So they were in my conference. So there was a lot of players that were really good, but those two stand out because I had to battle them my entire 4 years in high school. And they were great players, obviously. One going to Duke, one going to Penn State. They went off to big schools, even though they transferred. But going to those type of schools in that era, you had to be really good.
Yeah. Okay, what are some accolades in high school that you received that people may not know about in high school?
Actually, I averaged 10 assists as a junior. I don't think nobody, because I was such a great scorer, my passing has always been overlooked, even in college. I averaged 21 points and 10 assists as a junior in high school, and nobody talks about it. I had a 19 assist game. I had a 15 assist game as a junior, and I really opened up myself as a true facilitator, because I was always a dominant scorer and a great shooter, but I never got the credit for my ability to make people around me better with the pass. That's something, an accolade for me that never gets talked about, that I love bragging about, because it's like, look, man, like I averaged 10 assists a game in high school and nobody talks about it. And then once I got to college, I led the conference in assists 1 year in college as well. Nobody talks about that. Everybody just talks about my scoring.
Okay, so do you think the McDonald's All-American brushed past that as well? Like, you weren't a McDonald's All-American, right?
No, I wasn't a McDonald's All-American. I ended up playing in the Magic Round Ball Classic, which is pretty much the same thing. The same guys that played in the McDonald's, they played in the Magic game. So I wasn't considered a quote unquote 5-star, 4-star, 3s. I wasn't none of that stuff. I was unranked. And that kind of put a chip on my shoulder, because a lot of times in the rankings, I didn't go to the ABCD camp. I didn't do any of that. I was just kind of locked in and working on my craft, preparing myself for the college level. My dad wasn't really concerned with being ranked or anything like that. So it was never a priority to be ranked like that. Priority was to be the better player once we got on the floor.
So talk to me about that guidance of your father. What type of teacher was he?
The master motivator. You talk to anybody that has encountered my father, he knows how to inject you with so much positivity and motivation that it just makes you want to run through a wall. He was very stern, but also very understanding at the same time. And his IQ for sports is where I get it from. His IQ to understand the different elements and the nuances that it takes to be a great player. He was able to translate that to his son and inject his son with that. And I was able to act it out. So that's what just, makes my father special, because without him having that type of motivational push and challenging me to be great, he never allowed me to use my size as an excuse not to be great. He never allowed that. He never said, oh, my son's too small, he's not gonna do it. Never. He always said that I can climb to the highest mountain, and I did that.
Something I should have asked you a few questions back. Do you think your love for basketball was natural, or do you think it's something that he kind of instilled in you?
I'll say both, because we are reflections of our guardians, whether it's your parents, your grandparents, your aunties, your uncles. I was a reflection of my parents. Like, my mom loved sports. Her mother, my grandmother, loved football. My dad loved sports. His older brother loved sports. So it was what surrounded me. It was kind of instilled, and it was shaped over time. I thank God that I grew up in that environment.
Yeah, that's a great word, environment. And the reason why I say that is because, like, being in Japan and having a son and trying to get him into basketball, the environment here is just soccer, baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, before they build a basketball court outside, they'll build a dog park. Old people walking around, dogs with the lights on the neck and all that. And you're like, man, how am I going to get my son's environment to be what I had? That is an ingredient that's underrated. Your basketball environment, stirring all that up. Your recruiting process, the caliber of player that you were, how was that for you, the recruiting process?
Wasn't good for me. I wasn't highly recruited for two reasons. The first reason was because I didn't really take care of business like I was supposed to academically. So that was my own doing, being a teenager, like you said, being the man, hanging out sometimes and missing class and just, being a teenager, chasing girls and all of that. And that kind of affected me as far as my recruitment, because it trickled down to my academics not being up to par like it was supposed to. So that was the first reason why I wasn't highly recruited. My academics wasn't up to par. And if I can do it all over, I would really focus in and lock in and be an all A, B student. But at that time, I didn't think that way. And secondly, the reason why my recruitment wasn't great because of my size.
Yeah.
5'8", 140 pounds. What can he do at the college level? He's too small. He's not big enough. He's not fast enough. He doesn't jump high enough. He's never touched a weight. Is he tough enough? Like these are all the outside, the college coaches that are saying, why should I recruit a 5'8", 140 pound guy? Can he defend the 6'2", 190 pound point guard? I don't think he can do it. He's too small. So those two elements right there kind of left my recruiting non-existent. It was just a few schools that were interested. So that's kind of how it went for me.
So how did Detroit Mercy come into the picture?
So I feel like that's a great question. It's a long-winded one, but I'm gonna give you the short version of it. My family grew up being Detroit Titans fans. My dad grew up loving the Titans. My uncle grew up loving the Titans with John Long and Terry Tyler and Terry Durod. And as a kid, my father used to take me to the U.of.D. games when I was a 4 or 5, 6-year-old kid. And I used to walk into Callahan Hall with my eyes all wide and like, wow, I would love to do this one day. I'm 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
And so that environment, so my father kept me around that. So I was able to see Callahan Hall, and I dreamt of playing basketball for the University of Detroit Titans as a kid. Even though I loved the Michigan Wolverines and all of that stuff growing up in Detroit, but I wasn't able to touch the Michigan Wolverines like I was able to touch Detroit, because Detroit, Callahan Hall was in the west side of Detroit. You can drive there and look at the arena. I couldn't get to Ann Arbor. That was too far. So Perry Watson was a fantastic coach for Southwestern High School. He coached Jalen Rose and all of those guys, Vaughn Leonard, Howard Isley, and he went on to the Fab Five, brought Chris Webber and those guys to Michigan. He was the top assistant there. He ended up leaving Michigan and taking the head coaching job at the University of Detroit. Perry Watson was always aware of the player I was. So once he got the University of Detroit job, he automatically started recruiting me. I was able to go there because he opened the door for me.
Switching environments, now you're in college. What was the landscape as far as players on the team, the hierarchy? What did you come into initially?
Good question. I came in as a prop 48, so I had to sit out my first year.
Me too.
So you know how that happened. So I was a prop. So that was devastating for me. That was probably the most challenging part of my journey at being 18 years old, having the game stripped, because I had never dealt with consequences before then in that regard. So I had to sit out. We had 6 seniors, so I had to sit out the first year. I couldn't practice with the team. I was strictly a student at University of Detroit my first year. Couldn't really go in the locker room, couldn't be around the guys like that. So it was crazy. I had to get my grades up, which I did. I made the dean's list, took care of my grades. And when I got on the team, I was around 5'8". I was like $150. There were 6 seniors. The university hadn't really won yet. They had some glimpses of things, but my freshman year, we went 25-6. We ended up winning a game in a tournament against St. John's, and we ended up ultimately losing to Purdue. But that's where I learned how to buy in to team structure. I didn't start as a freshman, came off the bench. I had great teammates, man. Brian Alexander, God rest his soul, was a senior. He was Defensive Player of the Year like 2-3 years in a row. He was our anchor. Derek Hayes was a great shooting guard, 6'4" shooting guard. Perry Robinson, who was like a mentor to me on the team, another senior. E.J. Harrelson, another senior, a 6-foot guard that played in JUCO. He was a Gold Glove boxer as a child, and I had to compete with him every day. And E.J. Harrelson is still the toughest dude I've ever came across, still to this day. And the reason he was so tough, like I said, he was a Gold Glove boxer before he started playing basketball. So he had that boxer thought process. He wouldn't quit. He wouldn't stop. He wouldn't get tired. He would run all day. And he was an excellent defender. He was a great shooter. So I had to go against him every day as a freshman. So he really sharpened my skills, my toughness. And we had Jermaine Jackson, who was a fantastic player, who played in the NBA. Desmond Ferguson, who was a great shooter. Bakari Alexander, I had great teammates. So we won my freshman year, and I had that team success.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was your work ethic like at that point? Before you became the guy everybody knows now and remember, what was your work ethic to get to that point?
Wow. So we talk about Mamba mentality, right? That's the thing that Kobe, God rest his soul, brought to the forefront. I felt like I was doing Mamba mentality before it was a thing. I was the one that was, getting 1,000 shots up at 11 o'clock at night. My father we would have drills where I couldn't leave the spot until I made 10 in a row. So all of our drills had to be 10 in a row. And it would be sometimes I would make 9 and miss on 10.
He make you start over.
We would start over. So that's what made me such a great shooter. That's what made me, the player that I was, the offensive player that I was, because I had a work ethic that wasn't normal. Like everybody was working out. It wasn't like I was working out and nobody else was. But my workouts and my work ethic was slightly different than just the average basketball player. And that's what helped me propel to be a great basketball player at the college level. Yeah, so that was my regimen.
Okay, I want to swerve for a second here. They say things happen for the right reason and the right time. Do you think the NIL system, do you think it could have worked in your amateur days?
Yeah, I do. I feel like college athletics is a job. It's a job. Every day you have to be there. You have to be on time. You have to perform. It's a job. And I feel like when you're doing a job, you should be compensated for it. Nobody works for free. The coaches are getting paid. How come the players don't get paid? We're working, they're working. Everybody's in a working environment. So therefore, everybody should be compensated for it. The NIL would have definitely worked back then. For me, it would have been very lucrative.
Veering back on path, you called your 4 years at Detroit the best 4 years of your life. I could imagine what it was like being the quote man on campus, star player. But I'd like to know more about what fueled that drive inside of you during that time.
I just always wanted to be great at the game. I just wanted to be great. I just didn't like mediocrity. I did not like being average at the game. And I worked tirelessly for those things to not be associated with my name. I never wanted to be called an average basketball player. I never wanted to be called mediocre at the game. I wanted to associate my name with the word great when it came to basketball. That was the driving force for me the entire time.
I admire that so much. I was talking to Marcus Hatton, and he said the same thing. And I'm like, man, the fact that you had that, because I feel like basketball, the journey, there's this weeding out process that happens. And if you lose focus for 1 second, I'm talking about in the classroom, on the court, you want to party, you want to do this, you want to do that, you're going to get weeded out and someone's just going to step right over you if your work ethic is not right. So the fact that you guys had that so early and so consistently is really, really admirable. And I just love hearing stories like that. And the fact that you said that you was just naturally like, I want to be great. Man, so much respect for that right there. You were blessed with something that not a lot of people have. Okay, so your toughest matchup in college, who would you say that was?
I had a lot of tough matchups. I can't just pinpoint one player, but Damon Stringer was really tough to play against. And if people don't know who Damon Stringer is, just look him up. He was Mr. Basketball in Ohio, coming out of Ohio. He went to Ohio State. He was freshman of the year in the Big Ten. And then he transferred to Cleveland State, which was in my conference. So I had to play against him twice a year. He was a load, man. He didn't have any weaknesses. He could shoot it. He can pass it. He can defend. He was smart. He was tough. He was quick. He was fast. He didn't have any weaknesses. So he was one dude that I enjoy competing against guys that were, considered on the same level as me. I enjoyed that. I really was. I love playing against another guy that I know was putting the same type of work in I was, or close to it, because I got to measure what I was doing to that player. Jamal Crawford was a tough matchup. I played against Jamal in his freshman year at Michigan, my junior year, and we went back and forth, and he was tough to defend because of his size and his quickness and his wicked ball handling. He was just so good with the ball. It was literally on a string. It was like playing against like a puppet, because the ball was just like, it was stuck. And it was so quick. I didn't even try to take the ball from, I'm just wasting my time. So we went back and forth, and I had a great matchup with him. Baron Davis was probably the most ferocious guard I've ever encountered. Baron Davis was like Mike Tyson. He had this aura of, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm meaner, and I'm gonna let you feel. I'm gonna let you feel. Like his speed, bumping shoulders with him, it was like colliding with a linebacker. And he was so forceful and so athletic and so strong. I knew that he would have the success at the NBA level. I told my dad after I played again, we beat UCLA, by the way. But after that game, I told my dad, I said, hey man, that Baron Davis dude gonna be an all-star at the next level. Like, I knew. As a player, sometimes you be like, no, like, dude, bro, different.
Yeah.
I knew. I was like, nah, dude, number 5 from UCLA, nah, he different. I fouled him out. So I was the last person he played against in college. He fouled out against me. He was the number 3 pick in the draft. So when he went number 3 overall in the draft, I was like, yep, knew it. Played against him, knew it. Baron was probably the most ferocious that I've ever encountered, point guard position.
With that said, if I say the best game I've had at Detroit Mercy, me being, if I was you, what would you say? It could be a personal reason.
Great. That helps me answer the question. In 2000, One of my best friends, Chris McNeil, his father coached us in high school. Chris was my football teammate when I played for the Oak Park Trojans in middle school. I ended up going to Ferndale instead of Detroit Persian because Chris McNeil pulled me to Ferndale. So you got to come to Ferndale with me. My dad's the coach. His dad was the coach. We played 4 years of, varsity together when he got called up. In 2000, I got a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning. We had to play Cleveland State. It was Damon Stringer. And it was 2 o'clock in the morning and my dorm phone rings because we didn't have cell phones back then. Dorm phone rings at 2 o'clock in the morning and I pick up the phone. It's my high school teammate, Elvin Jones. And he's like, hey man, he's hysterical and he's screaming over the phone. He's like, man, I need you. We just had a, I said, what's going on? Like, what? He's like, he's kind of like in tears. I'm like, well, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I got a game in 2 days against Cleveland State at home. And he's like, Chris just had a car accident. I need you now. So I jumped up. Chris was rushed to the hospital. I missed practice the next day because we were in the hospital. And then we had a game Saturday. So it was a Thursday. That Friday, I missed practice, missed shoot around. I was in the hospital. Chris passed away. He passed right before the game against Cleveland State. So that Saturday, it was a televised game on Fox Sports. And I ended up hitting the game-winning shot against Damon Stringer against Cleveland State. And I had dedicated that game to Chris McNeil, and I had to go to his funeral like that Wednesday. So that was probably the most memorable game for me because I was playing with a heavy heart and I felt his spirit with me. Yeah. And I played the entire game crying. Like, coach would call a timeout, so I come to the bench and cry and go back out and play. So coach would see me tearing up as I'm dribbling down the court, and he would call a timeout, and my teammates would kind of huddle up so nobody can see, and I would have the towel on my face. I would cry it out. I had like 30 seconds to cry it out. And I would cry it out, and I'd wipe my face and get back on the court and play. So when I hit the game-winning shot against Damon Stringer, Cleveland State calls a timeout, and you can see me walking to the bench, and I'm crying. That was the most memorable game for me.
Your junior year is when you really took a leap into this guy's the best player in our conference. What led to that? Was it just like players ahead of you leaving? Did your game go to another level? Your work ethic stepped up? What was it?
I felt like I had a chance to play in the NBA. That summer, after my sophomore year, I averaged 16 points a game. It was like 15.7. I don't know the exact, it was around 16 a game. I felt like I had a chance to play at the NBA level. My dad felt like I had a chance to play at the NBA level. So that summer going into my junior year, my dad was like, man, you got a chance to play in the league. You got a chance. You just played against Baron Davis. We gonna turn it up. You going out there as a junior next year and you gonna show the whole world how great you are. Like, my dad was like, enough is enough. Because I felt like I sacrificed a lot my first 2 years in college for the betterment of team success, which I don't want to take back. Like, I love the team success that I had, but I was holding back a lot of my individuality so we can have a lot of team success. But going in as a junior, I was like, nah, it's time for the world to see what I really can do. That's what led me to going in as a junior and being top 5 in the nation in scoring, leading our conference in assists. I was the second player ever to lead the Horizon League in scoring and assists at the same time. I was the second player to ever do it. It hadn't been done since like 1981. So I was the second player to do it, and I think somebody else done it after me, but I was the second player to do it. I think Kay Felder did it like 15 years later. Like, so it was a rare thing for a guard to lead the conference in scoring and assists and make first team all defense at the same time. Like, so I turned it up like, man, I can play in the league and I'm about to show people like I'm an NBA player. I'm not just some mid-major dude just putting up. No, I'm an NBA dude.
Why didn't you leave after that season?
I talk about that in my book. I feel like I didn't have the proper management and resources to make that leap because, mind you, in 1999, 2000, mid-major guys wasn't going pro early. Antonio Daniels did it out of Bowling Green, but he was 6'4". So it was an unprecedented thing to declare for the draft from a mid-major school unless you were big. Vitaly Potapenko did it from our conference out of Wright State and went lottery, but he was 6'10". It was unprecedented it was almost taboo. Who does he think he is trying to go to the NBA at 5'9"? You can't play in the, but if I was 6'5", nobody would have a problem with it. But it's the optics. It's the optics. A 5'9" guy leaving school early to play in the NBA. You're 5'9". Why are you trying to go pro early? So it was kind of frowned upon. So me and my dad felt those eyes on us, like they didn't really want us to do that. I was kind of thrusted back into school, like, go back to school, you're 5'9". Okay, sure. So I had a huge chip on my shoulder because I didn't want to go back to school.
You still had an amazing year, your senior year.
Yeah.
Team-wise, did you guys feel like you accomplished what you wanted that year?
Yeah, we made it to the Final Four to NIT. We beat UConn at UConn. We beat Dayton at Dayton. Like, I think we're only the second team in NIT history to win 3 road games to get to the Final Four. I think another team did it after us. So it's only been 3 teams to ever do it. We were one of the 3 teams to ever do it. So team-wise, absolutely. We went all the way to the end. We lost in the championship, and it was a fantastic journey because my senior year was just a duplicate of my junior year. I literally had to, if you look at my numbers may have been better percentage-wise. I shot 42% from 3 as a senior, and I led the nation in 3-pointers made at 136. So I shot 42% from 3, and I made 136 more than anybody in the world. And I shot 92% from the free throw line. I don't, if you cover up my name and put Steph Curry name, everybody would believe it. But when you remove Steph Curry name and put Rashad Phillips, then people start questioning it. But it's there. You can Google it. I'm not making this up.
Cool, for sure. So, okay, right. What are you hearing about your draft stock around that time?
It's too small. Can't run a team. Can he defend the NBA guards? It was really weird for me, bro, because the doubts that was being put out on me wasn't what was showing on paper. Because my defense was being questioned, but I had led my conference in steals once. I was an all-conference defender. Then, can he run a team? I've led my conference in assists. I've led my team in assists 3 out of the 4 years. I didn't understand it because I was the best player pound for pound in the country. So I didn't understand why I was getting so much pushback to advance to the NBA level. There has to be room for me. If I'm the Naismith Award winner, the best player in the whole country under 6 foot, there has to be one roster spot in the NBA waiting for the best player in the country. There has to be a roster spot for me. So, like, mathematically, it doesn't even make sense. I don't want to get off subject, but I want to touch on something that you did in your episode about me, which was 100% accurate. You talked about the 3-point shot not being popular during my time, which you were very right. The 3-point shot is celebrated in today's game. I was literally the best 3-point shooter in college basketball, and I got ostracized for it. I got punished for being the best 3-point shooter. The NBA wasn't shooting threes like that in 2000. Go look up the stats. The number 1 player that took the most threes in the NBA in 2001 was Antoine Walker. Not Ray Allen, not Reggie Miller. So the 3-point shot was not heavy volume at the NBA level. So it wasn't highlighted to be, hey, we have to draft this guy because he's the best 3-point shooter in college basketball, and we lack 3-point shooting on our NBA team. In today's game, if you are the best 3-point shooter in college basketball with the type of game that I had, you will be a lottery pick. So it's funny that you said I was before my time, but you were right.
Way before your time. Because if you look at the numbers and strip away the name, like you said, the things that you've done Amazing. The Naismith Award. Can we see that again, if you don't mind?
This here represents the best player in the country under 6 foot. It's in the Hall of Fame. And this means that if you do the numbers, there's over 4,500 college Division I basketball players. There's half of those dudes are under 6 foot. To be the best one out of that, that's what that award means. It means that you're the best of the best. That's what it means. So coming from where I come from, to win a national award for being the best, coming from being 4'8" to now being 5'9", 162 pounds, recognized as the best player in the country. And the reason I say that, if somebody watches this and say the dude is he not telling the truth, you can look it up. I led the country in offensive win shares. I was the most dominant offensive player in college basketball in 2001. You can go look it up.
At the Portsmouth Invitational, you led again, assist, scoring, MVP.
Yeah.
It's like, how much more do you need to see? You just won the Naismith Award for the best player under 6 foot in college. Comes to where the top 60, what was it, 60, 48?
64.
And he's the best there again. What was the NBA missing around that time for that mistake to happen? Or that misread? I don't want to say mistake.
I feel like it was a combination of not really wanting 5'9" 3-point scores. It wasn't a necessity. The NBA wanted the 6'4" traditional guard that can just dribble up the court, pass it, cut through. They weren't celebrating the dynamic 5'9", 5'10" guard. It wasn't celebrated. Allen Iverson and Damon Stoudemire were kind of the only two dudes that were allowed and celebrated for that play style. I feel like everybody else was alienated for that play style. And I was the top one at that play style. After Allen Iverson and Damon Stoudemire, when you look at the college level, I was the next one up. And I felt like that wasn't really celebrated. It was just it's just rare. We don't really need that type of player. And that hurt me because again, that was another MVP. I lost count at how many MVPs I won, honestly, to be honest with you. Like, I was player of the year in my conference 2 years in a row. I won the Magic Round Ball MVP. I won a Wendy's Classic MVP, a Macomb County MVP, Oakland County MVP, Portsmouth MVP. I didn't know how many times I have to be the best player to prove to you that I am the best player. I don't know how many times I have to do that.
So the NBA draft, did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it from my home.
As it was going on, what were you thinking? And how did you feel about how it went?
I was sad, man. I was sad, but I was also cheering for a few of my friends that got drafted. Like, I was watching a couple guys, like Stephen Hunter was my friend from DePaul, 7-footer, got drafted like by the Orlando Magic. Like, some of my friends that I did pre-draft training with, like I was excited to see some of them go. But I was sad for myself because it was like, man, I put so much work in. I put so much sweat equity into this game. And it all led to me sitting in my room watching the names go by of guys that I had outplayed, that had done less than I had did. And that was my first time really seeing how the world works. I was a little naive, a little oblivious to how having the right structure, the right resources, the right agent, the right manager, the right this for everything to work. I was so old-fashioned. My father was so old-fashioned. We always believe the best player, it happens if you're the best player. But that's not the case, because I'm living proof that you can be the best player and the NBA can still overlook you. That can happen. I'm living proof.
And not only you're saying it, other people have said it. Reputable people, Naismith, have said it. Like you said, there has to be a spot for that guy.
I just felt like no matter who my agent is, no matter like I didn't have any off the court issues as well, just so we get that clear. Because people say, well, what was he off the court? Never got in trouble with the law, never drink, never smoke. I didn't do any of that stuff, never nothing. You know, I was locked in, just completely locked in, straight Mamba mentality all the way through. So that was not a reason as well. So I just felt that there has to be, it's 450 jobs. I know I qualify for one of those jobs. One. I got to qualify for one for all that I've done.
Let me ask you a off the wall question. Allen Iverson, right? Was he an influence for you, first of all?
Absolutely. Allen Iverson, I can't tell you how important Allen Iverson was for me. Just, he gave me the motivation that I could do it. He's my all-time favorite athlete. You know, like, just, I've never seen a dude more talented. I've never seen a dude more gifted. I still watch his highlights to this day. Like, Allen Iverson is everything to me, bro. I ain't even gonna lie.
Same way. He's my favorite player of all time. Who I think is the best, I do think Michael Jordan's the best, but Allen Iverson was my favorite player.
My favorite.
Yeah.
He was my favorite by a mile. Like, I would tune in and watch Georgetown games. At Big East Mondays. Oh man, we had practice at high school and I would fly home so I can turn on and watch Georgetown against Syracuse or Georgetown against Villanova. Like, I didn't miss a Georgetown game, man.
Yeah, we used to record his crossover on VHS and literally go home, study it, me and my friend. I asked you that because at the time, Allen Iverson was the man. This was around his MVP year, right? 2000.
Yeah, 2001, he won MVP. Yeah, that was like that came out.
Right. So do you think, because, you know, the NBA was having this thing with Allen Iverson where they were just kind of painting him in a negative light, the way he dressed, the way him and Larry Brown's relationship, their interactions. So it was like he was so great and good, but there was this kind of like negative aura around. Do you think that affected you? Like, you don't want another Allen Iverson, you know? He shoots a lot, and everyone was saying that too. Like, he's a ball hog, this and that. Do you think that perception kind of carried over to you, like, and it may have hurt you, it being in an Allen Iverson mold?
Sure. Sure. But I felt like it hurt all the small guys. It wasn't just me. Like, I felt like I was in front of the line of that because of my hairstyle, my number. I wore the number 3 like Iverson. I had braids, all of that. So do I felt like it hurt me? Yes, but I also felt like it hurt every 6 foot and under player. I felt like it just was a domino effect of all of us, not just me. It was like me and the next 5'9" guy, and the next 6 foot guy, and the next 5. I felt like we all got punished because of that. And a quick story about that, because a lot of people, the number 3, they asked, did I wore number 3 because of Iverson? But that's actually not true. Number 3 was my football number, because I was a football player, again, like Iverson, football player. Number 3 was my number. I was a quarterback. I tried, but 23 was my basketball number. I wore it in high school. And when I got to University of Detroit, I wanted to wear 23. But there was a senior on our team, Perry Robinson. He wore 23. So he was a senior. I couldn't get his number. So I went with my football number and just wore 3. And I had braids in high school because my favorite rap group, Bone Thugs and Harmony, had braids. So I grew out my hair because of my favorite rap group was Bone Thugs and Harmony. So I wanted to be like them. I had the little braids, and then I wore number 3. So then when I saw Iverson with it, I just was like, oh, I'm rolling. Like, I took it. I'm like, I'm going with that. I'm going with the Iverson look because he was inspiring me.
Okay, what was your immediate reaction after going undrafted? Did you immediately pick up the pieces? What was that for you?
Well, it was hard because the cameras started, I was, so I left home to walk to my father's community center. I was in my room. I came downstairs, me and my cousin, Red was with me. And I was like, I'm gonna walk up to my dad's community center because my granny was there, my aunties, my uncle. So as I'm walking through my neighborhood, just kind of reflecting. I was by myself, it was dark. You know, the draft ends late at night. So back then they do the 2 rounds in one day. So it was late. It was like, it was probably 11 o'clock at night. It was pitch black. And I just walked through my neighborhood. And as I'm walking through my neighborhood, I could hear the neighbors, like as I walk past different houses that seen me grow up in that neighborhood, because I grew up in the same neighborhood for 22 years. We hadn't moved. And people was opening up their doors and saying, "It's okay, Rashad," like as I'm walking through the neighborhood. And that was the longest walk of my life. And then as I got to my dad's community center, the news stations pulled up with cameras in my face. So I had to face my trials early. I faced them the same day. I didn't get to go lay and cry about it. I had to face my trial and tribulation the same day. Cameras in my face. What do you think happened? This and that. And I just said, I don't know. But the story is not over. The book is not done being written. When I got to my dad's community center, I saw my granny and my aunties, and you know, they were just being positive. But I felt bad, not for myself. I felt bad for my community, because I was the person in my community that the kids looked up to. I was the bright spot, and I wanted to show the kids in our community that you can make it out. I felt sad for everybody but myself. I didn't feel sad for myself. I felt sad for my parents. Like, they put so much into me. They install so much into me, and for them to see their investment get flushed down the toilet out of their control, that hurt me. And it hurts me today because I'm a parent. You pour so much into your child, and your child does everything you ask them to do. And they succeed at everything you ask them to do. And somehow they still don't get let in. That hurts you and crushes you as a parent. So I felt for my mom. I felt for my dad. I didn't feel for myself. I was like, man, I'm good. Like, I'll figure it out. So that was what ran through my mind. It still does today. I feel hurt for my parents today because I felt like my parents didn't deserve that.
Right.
What they poured into their kid.
Okay, so the next step for you, development league. What the development league at the time, it wasn't what it is today, right?
No.
So how was your experience there?
It had just started. I was literally the first point guard ever drafted into the G League. That's like a trivia question. I was the first point guard ever drafted into the G League. It started in 2002. And my agent at the time, Henry Thomas, God rest his soul, he was also Dwayne Wade's agent, and Chris Bosh. He was those guys after down the line. I had $1 million contract overseas. I turned it down because I felt like, well, I was kind of talked into going into the G League, D League at the time. Hey man, it's this D League. The NBA are going to be pulling players from this league all year round. You don't need to go overseas. Stay in this right here is the new league, and you're gonna get called up. And I'm 23 years old. I'm like, I'm trying to get to the NBA. I'm not thinking about I'm going overseas for $1 million to play in Europe. That's not on my mind. My mind is not money. My mind is that I want to play in the NBA. So I go to the D League camp. They throw a camp in Atlanta, Georgia. I kill everybody as usual. I get drafted 7th overall by the Mobile Revelers, by Sam Vincent. Drafted me 7th overall. I was elated because in my mind, I just became the first point guard drafted in this league. I'm gonna be called up. I'm gonna get my dream to play in the NBA, and there's that. And that never happened. Never got called up, played there. But it was a great league. It was a great opportunity. I love that the G League is in place today because it is much needed. I follow it religiously. I love watching it. I feel a part of it because I helped pioneer that league. And so it just didn't work out for me. It just wasn't in the cards.
So you went overseas after that. Did you fully embrace the overseas life?
No, I despised it. I hated it. I went into like a sports depression. I went into a sports depression for about 8 years, eight to 10 years. My rookie year, again, all this is documented. You can go on Eurobasket.com and pull up my profile if you want to. Think I got it somewhere it's right here. So I have my whole Eurobasket file here, and you can see all of my stats from overseas. So my rookie year, I broke the rookie scoring record in Italy. I scored 51 my first game as a rookie in Italy. I broke Kobe Bryant's dad's record, Jelly Bean Bryant's, because Jelly Bean played in Italy. I broke his scoring record my rookie year. The team ran out of money by December, so I ended up leaving. But I averaged. Let me tell you exactly what I averaged, because I don't want to be lying on here. My rookie year, I averaged 24.6 points a game. I was averaging like 33 a game as a rookie until the team was running out of money. So the last 2 games, I only played 5 minutes. So I got 2 games, 4 points apiece. So it dropped my scoring average from like 33 to like 25, because they were trying to drop my scoring average to justify not paying me. So I really was averaging 33 points. And then, so my overseas experience started with that. Even when I was doing great overseas, it was like there was always something that was just pulling the carpet from under me.
So your mind was still on getting back to America, getting back to the NBA at the time?
During that time, yeah, but I felt like it was already over. I felt like it was over, bro. That's why I went into a sports depression, because it was like, I'm not going to get there, like, because I just feel like I don't have the right representation. Out of sight, out of mind. You got to strike while the iron's hot. They're going to be looking at the next crop of guards coming out of college. So now I just have to make a living for myself. Maybe I can creep into a summer league down the line, but each year the NBA just moved further and further and further away.
When did you know, as a basketball player and as a man, it was time to step away from the game?
Like I said, I was going through such a depressing time overseas, man. Like my career average in Europe, is 20-5. Like, I actually had a great career in Europe. Like, it's averaged 20-5 as a professional. Like, I'm gonna read it off to you. I averaged 25. I'm just reading off this paper. I averaged 25 in Italy, and then I went on to France. I averaged 21-6, and then I went back to France and averaged 28-7. I went to Turkey, I averaged 21-5. I went to Saudi Arabia, I averaged 29-7. I averaged 14 here. And Portugal, I averaged 18 I averaged 20-5 my as a professional. So it wasn't like I was over there averaging 7 points and 3. I averaged 20-5 everywhere I went, even when I was depressed. After my last year, I went to Saudi Arabia my last year. It was my last year. It was in 2008, 2009. I went to Saudi Arabia. It was my last year. And I won MVP. I won MVP in the Saudi Arabian League. I averaged 29 points and 7 assists. I had 4 50-point games. I broke the 3-point record. I had a game of 13 threes. I went like 13. Now, again, this is 2008, 2009. Guys in the NBA still aren't making 13 threes. I'm still doing it overseas, but nobody's seeing it. The team offers me a 3-year contract, a 3-year deal, and it was lucrative too. 3-year deal. It was like they wanted me to come back. It was like, hey, we want you to come back. You won MVP. We offering you a 3-year deal, and it was lucrative too. It was a lot of money, man. I was like, no, I'm done. I turned it down. I was like, no, I can't do 3 years of this. No matter what you try to pay me, I can't do 3 years of this. I feel like there's a different calling for me, and I need to get to my next calling. I've played enough basketball. I've won enough MVP awards. I've won enough. So it's something else for me to do. And I walked away. I was 30 years old, bro. I could have played 8 more years, but it wasn't in me no more. So I walked away.
So how was that transition from a professional athlete to having to find other passions in your life? And how has basketball shaped you for some of those new transitions that you're experiencing?
It was difficult, bro. I had a lot of sleepless nights because you do something for so long and then all of a sudden you stop. It was cold turkey for me. Like, it just stopped. And mind you, I'm 30 years old, so like a lot of my peers are still playing. Like, me and Kobe are the same age. So like, I'm watching Rip Hamilton, Kobe, I'm watching like Tim Thomas, like all the guys that I came out of high school with, they're still playing. I'm watching them on TV playing, and I'm done. And I'm like, that was hard for me to deal with. I had a lot of sleepless nights, and I really prayed, man. I really prayed to God, man, and I just asked God for guidance because I didn't know where to go. I asked God for guidance, and I really believe my prayers to my guardian angels that things started to become more clear for me. And I started my own basketball academy, started my own business, and it grew. And I had like the top training academy in the state of Michigan after about 2 years of starting my company. I went from one kid, I started training one kid, and that one kid turned into 20 kids. And then 20 kids turned into 40 kids, and 40 kids turned into 80. Then I had to hire a staff, 4 other trainers, and we had like 120 kids in rotation. And this was before like the Instagram era of like everybody's on Instagram training now, which is great. Like, I love it. It's cool. Like, I watch people. I love it because I was one of the dudes that kind of started that because my dad started that in the 70s, like training kids and all that. So I was doing it before like Instagram really got popular and people recording their stuff. I was doing all that like back in like 09, 2010, where Instagram had just kind of started. And nobody was using Instagram for like showing their training and it was just, Instagram was just pictures. I was training. I had a full blown out training program, and it grew big. So I became a company owner, and it really worked for me. And a lot of kids, like Josh Jackson came through my program at one time. He made it to the NBA. I got a kid right now that's playing professional overseas that came out of my program. A lot of my kids that came out of my program are doctors now, and lawyers and teachers and basketball coaches. So it's like, this was more fulfilling for me than anything that I've ever done. Is to mold the next generation to be great adults.
Okay, I want to ask you 3 questions, and I want to ask you them from different perspectives. And I want to get your advice because talking to you, I can just feel the passion and the realness in every story. So you're the perfect person to get advice from. How does he go about that recruiting process?
The first thing you got to do is look at the history of the coach that you're trying to go play for. The history, the data never lies. Depending on what kind of player that you are, you look at the coach and see, has he ever coached anybody like you? That's how you find out one thing, right? So if you are a post player that likes to shoot threes, but the coach that's recruiting you doesn't allow his bigs to shoot threes, then you don't go to that school, right? I think we ignore the obvious signs when we're trying to pick a school. Do your research on the coach, then you do your research on the program that he's coaching. Like, hey man, has they ever had a player that did what I did? And then when you see that, oh, they have, that might be a good fit for you. When I picked my college, going with Perry Watson, the history, the data never lies. So depending on what kind of player that you are, you look at the coach and see, has he ever coached anybody like you? That's how you find out one thing, right? So if you are a post player that likes to shoot threes, but the coach that's recruiting you doesn't allow his bigs to shoot threes, then you don't go to that school. Right? I think we ignore the obvious signs when we're trying to pick a school. Do your research on the coach, then you do your research on the program that he's coaching. Like, hey man, has they ever had a player that did what I did? And then when you see that, oh, they have, that might be a good fit for you. When I picked my college, Perry Watson, he had always coached great players. So I knew I was a great player. So I'm like, he's going to know how to coach me because he's accustomed to coaching great players. I fit what he's doing.
A player finishing college, but his opportunities are only overseas. How should he adjust his mindset?
You have to become professional. It becomes a job. It becomes a livelihood. You are now playing for your children. You are now playing for your future family that you're gonna create. So if you're a young man, you don't have a wife, you don't have a girlfriend, you don't have kids, but eventually you will. So you start to play for a bigger cause than just, I'm good at basketball, I'm hooping. That's what separates guys that have a lot of success overseas, because they understand why they're playing now.
The last one. What advice would you give to parents about pushing or to push or not to push their child into being an athlete?
There's a fine line between instilling the love of the game to your child and pushing it to your child. There's a really thin line. I'm speaking from experience because I have a 13-year-old daughter. I have a 19-year-old daughter that was a gymnast, but my 13-year-old is a basketball player. I have that fine line of pushing or instilling love in the game. You have to do it in small dosages because you are their parent. So everything that you do and say with your child, they hold it dearly. So you got to be careful in how you inject them with what you want them to love. So some days I may want to train my daughter, but I understand I have to let her be a kid today. She has to go ride her bike with her friends. Other days, it's a non-negotiable. We're going to train. So you got to give them that balance of allowing them to just love life and holding them accountable for something that they can possibly be good at one day.
Awesome advice. All right, my last question to you. As a point guard, as one of the elite, one of the best to ever do it, I want to know your top 5 point guards of all time, and then tell me why number 1 is number 1.
That's a great question. So I categorize the positions a little different as far as point guards and stuff like that. If you see behind me, that's my book that I wrote, really breaking down the evolution is being televised. I mean, I talk about different positions and how the game is, and I've always considered myself a hybrid guard. But when you talk about point guards, I think my number 1 point guard of all time is Isaiah Thomas. Number 1 is Isaiah Thomas. Number 2 is Magic Johnson. I feel like Magic Johnson is 1B. They're like 1A and 1B. I feel like Isaiah Thomas gets the nod for me because he did it at a smaller size. He actually beat Magic, Jordan, and Bird. Number 3 would probably say John Stockton. And he doesn't get talked about enough because he wasn't flashy, but you couldn't really find a more productive guard. Durable, he didn't miss games. He's the all-time steals and assist leader. So he would be number 3 for me. Number 4 for me would be Jason Kidd, because of his size, his IQ, his ability to guard multiple positions, his leadership. And number 5 would be Gary Payton for me.
Okay. Thought you was coming, Steph.
I like that because I knew you was going to say that. I feel like Steph Curry is not a point guard. That's why he's not in my 5, because I don't consider Steph Curry a point guard. He's more considered a hybrid combo. And if people like arguing this online, if you just look, like Steph Curry has never, to be a point guard, you have to have a facilitation trait.
Yeah.
I feel like Steph Curry doesn't have a facilitation trait.
Yeah.
He has gravity that pulls the defense towards him, and he gets assists because the defense is just shifted to him because of his shooting. But the guys that I named, they have facilitation traits. Isaiah Thomas averaged 14 assists a game in 1985. Magic Johnson averaged 10 assists for his career. John Stockton is the all-time assist leader ever. Jason Kidd was a pass first, pass second guard. Gary Payton averaged 9 assists a game in college. So these are all facilitators. To be a point guard, you have to have a facilitating trait. Steph Curry is a hybrid. A hybrid is a combination of a guard and a shooting guard. Like Allen Iverson was a hybrid. Steph Curry's a hybrid. I feel like Steph Curry is the greatest hybrid guard of all time. James Harden is a hybrid guard. Russell Westbrook is a hybrid guard. Kyrie Irving is a hybrid guard. Like, it's a different state of guard now. It's not just 5 traditional positions. Like, there's different skill traits that separate the positions in today's age. That's why in my book, the evolution is being televised, because we watch it on TV. We can watch Steph Curry film and watch Magic Johnson film, and they do not have the same traits whatsoever.
Okay, so I've been looking at this the whole time, and it just looks so interesting in your background. Tell me about your book, man.
Isaiah Thomas wrote the foreword to my book. It just really breaks down the game, man. And I have different illustrations in the book talking about like the evolution of the game. Like, this is a picture of Allen Iverson here in my book, breaking down how the different positions, the stretch big right here with Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki was not a power forward. He was a stretch big. Just really identifying what the basketball player is today opposed to what it was 30, 40 years ago. The game has evolved and the terminology needs to evolve. So that's why I wrote a book breaking it down.
Okay. And where can people find this book?
You can go on weberpublishing.com. I'm with Chris Webber's publishing company, and he signed me to a book deal. So I'm actually working on my second book, my biography. So you can go on weberpublishing.com and you can purchase the book and just see my breakdown on the game.
Definitely got to grab that. Rashad Phillips, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this conversation. Your basketball knowledge, your passion. It's just like, man, I can't get enough of hearing you talk. Appreciate you, your journey, still relevant today. People still care and still want to know about the things that you've done, and they still miss a lot of the things that you've done. So thank you for sharing some of those things and just being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.